Hello to everyone. So we are keep going on with the presentation of the last finalist of our Cinquina, Iman Mersal, for a book entitled Sulle tracce di Enayat. Iman Mersal, it's an honor for me to be here with you, to stand here and to have the chance to have a conversation with you. You are known as a poet and as one of the major voices in the modern Arabic poetry. You live in Canada, where you are a teacher, but you were born in Egypt, and you started writing poems very young. You founded reviews. Your poems are translated in many languages, actually. And but today, if you are here, it is not because of a book of poems. It's for a very different book and a very special one. You can believe me, a very special one, which is both powerful, very subtle and delicate book. And it's a narrative, a nonfiction, we can say, that mixed investigation, works on archives, historical archives, for example, interviews, and also reflection on what is writing, what is to be a writer, actually. And it's obviously a book where you are intimately involved in, and this is the part of my interest and my reading. I love the book because you succeed in weaving your voice in and the voice of Enayat. So I will some quick summary the book. So Iman Mersal was in second-hand bookstore and found a book entitled Love and Silence. In English, it's Love and Silence. Yes, Love and Silence. And this book has been written by a woman named Enayat Zayat. And this woman died in 1963, just 4 years before her novel Love and Silence was published. And she committed suicide. And Iman Mersal found the book, and then, but you will explain it too for us, 20 years after, came back to this novel and decided to investigate on this woman, Enayat Dayat. Why did she commit suicide? And following the path of this character, knowing you came back in Egypt, a country you left for exile in 1998. Not exiled. It was voluntary, yeah. But you decided to not exactly. Yeah, it's a too big word perhaps for you. So, and my first question will be, I would like to know, investigating is first, why these 20 years? What did you feel? What did you feel when you found the book? What did it hooked you so hard and remain in your spirit and in your head and in your heart also to come back to it 20 years after and decided to dedicate to this story, to this woman, such a book.
Hello, everybody. Do you hear me? Okay. All right. Let's start with finding this novel, Al-Hub wa Samt, or Love and Silence. I used stand, actually. It's not even a bookstore. in Cairo, and it was 1993, which means I was a young poet, um, searching for my own voice, going through hard time without being able to articulate it or to understand it. And of course, I was, well read in reading Arabic literature, including female Arab writers. And when this novel um, um, I bought it for £1 or so because it was cheap and because the last name is Zayed and we have a famous novelist named Latifa Zayed. So I made assumptions that she is, her younger sister or cousin who wants to try her hand in writing. But when I read the novel, actually, I was shocked because I felt it was the first time ever to see a modern Arab female writer that can speak to me directly, or I can relate to, or can help me to articulate what I'm going through without knowing that I'm going through it. And to summarize all of this, I think Anayat was interested in the question of individuality. And in early 90s, being a female young poet writing prose poem, it was very easy to be marginalized, of course, but also because of genre, because of gender, because of so many things. And when I read the novel, I thought this woman is writing about her internal journey, and she is not interested in the formula of novels written by Arab female writers then, before 1993, which was basically a mix between national cause and the female question. So it's like you are a good female writer if you can really make it very well. The national question should be there and important, and the women will be liberated in the end with the nation or not. So I felt the novel is different. And the first question will be, who is this woman? And why I never heard her name, despite the fact that I studied Arabic literature, I searched lists of Arab novels, Arab female writers. Her name even was not there. So the first question was actually about canon. What does a canon exclude? How how does it create it and maintained for decades, excluding this writer or that. And then knowing something about her made me almost haunted by her. So this 20 years not working on the book was actually always carrying her in my mind and asking questions or visiting archives from time to time to locate anything about her.
And you started to investigate from by phone,
By phone, first,
from Canada.
yes.
And it's very interesting because it happened without you come back to Egypt, and then finally you come to Egypt. And we could say that perhaps investigating first, we are going to speak about this investigation, the one you've done, and perhaps we could say that there is first the meaning of places. So I picked up some places that for me are very relevant in your book. The first one is the grave, the tomb of Enayat, that played a very special role in your book. Perhaps you could explain it to us. But also many places, as for example, the house, the flat of Nadia Lufti, who is a very famous actress, Egyptian actress, and who was at the same time the best friend of Enayat when they were young. Okay. And there is also the interior, very interesting because it's framed fully filled by high society objects and a very strong decorum. I mean, for his her sister, the sister of Enayat. So there is also this meeting, which was very interesting. And so you are going from place to place, and also in Doki. And in Doki, something was very interesting for me Doki, so it's a district in Cairo, and here you you came several times, and finally you draw a map of you sat with the professor and you draw a map of the ancient street where you could localize, situate the the house of Enayat, the one where she has been found dead on this day of January 63. And so places, spaces, districts, and how this investigation played a role in also your relationship to Cairo. And I would like to hear you about that, and especially perhaps the City of the Dead. I mean, it's very important because the book is starting in the cemetery.
Right. So, I mean, let me tell you why did I start the book
Yes.
in the cemetery. So I was lost actually for a long time, trying to find my voice in telling the story, but also being very worried that I will control Enayat or talk for her. I mean, the idea of someone who is voiceless and you give them a voice for me is really I don't like it. I don't like to do it. I like it when I read other people writing, but I'm not. I didn't want to walk in this direction.
Okay.
So I was like listening to the dead. Whatever I know about Anayat, I'm waiting to find this moment. Of course, I'm writing, but all of the writings there are like uh, like you are writing for now because, as you know, Roberto Polano said, instead of waiting, there is writing. So you are writing, but you know that this is not the book. And then there was like few pages of Inayat diary when she wrote in one of them a sentence I didn't understand at all, and the sentence was, "The journey must start from the cemetery." And I thought this is really a message for me because the only um, thing that I was sure about was a picture of Inayat in the Ahram newspaper where her family is celebrating her life in the cemetery and in this tomb called Rashid Basha. So I thought this is the only thing I have, so why don't I start from there? So when you start from the city of the dead, it's like I'm listening to Anayat to the dead, but also the book really is about absence. I came to write nonfiction from poetry, so always I have this poetic question that I don't know what to do with, and this is why it takes a zillion years to write a book. So the question about absence, erasure, about the city itself that changes every time you go back to, and it's not the change of normal changes that happen in other cities. It's actually the change made by the regime, usually to erase the memory of the city, events, revolutions, crises, and so on and so forth. So in any case, the moment I discovered that the book is really not about Enayat telling her life from A to Z, is not about me, is not about Cairo. What is it about?
Yes.
It's about my journey toward here. And then everything started to make sense, at least for me. Like the city is really the space where she passed and we passed each other, but in different historical moments. I was actually very surprised to when I locate her house when where she committed suicide 1963, age 27, that I was living um, two streets from it when I read her novel in 1993, almost 27 years old. So all of these like kind of things that don't make sense became the energy, the lovely energy that makes you want to keep uh, going and know more and shift your questions from why I need um, to the or why did she commit suicide or why to actually being fascinating with her work and my um, my feeling about it.
Yes, and I think the book is very interesting for these reasons because it's a type of investigation very special because you are very cautious, finally, perhaps not to discover everything about her, and you let the gaps, the holes exist without feeling obliged to fill it with documentation, archive, something. So it's a it's an investigation, but which do not know with we know with a radical willing. But there is also things that are so interesting and so sensitive in your book. That is your life, your personal life is always present by details. So at the same time, we are with you on the path following your journey to go to encounter Enayat Zayat. And at the same time, we are uh, we follow you in this work and also in this life in your life. And I've been very touched by the way you you took details. For example, how are you going to be dressed in order when you are going to meet Nadia, Nadia Lufti? You want to be very smart, and it's very interesting.
To work, huh?
No, you are, but she is very cool and very cool dressed, and you feel overdressed be, in front of her. Or sometimes you just, I mean, forgot a bottle of water without entering it. So many things. We are always with you. I mean, physically, in the movement on this of this investigation, and also we can also follow things that are more perhaps apprehensive. I mean, the illness of your sister, and we have spotlights on your family life, and I admire. I have a great admiration for the way you put everything together, and for me, it is one of the way you find to incarnate completely your book. So you are here.
Thank you.
Oh yes, it's very interesting, and I would like to know. In this investigation, the book is always shifting from tangible material traces from archives, and also it leads you to ask yourself a question about what is to be a writer. So you wrote. Uh, you compared your own journey to hers, to those of Enayat, and you wrote, "This woman was searching the meaning in his life and found it in writing. She was certainly fragile, but displayed a great willpower. She wanted to achieve her goal to the very end. It was success or death. If I wrote, I is you, if I wrote about her, it was also because it was a way for me to understand how I, as an Egyptian woman, was shaped by the suffering of a woman like Enayat." Can you give a commentary of this sentence,
Well,
please? Because it's sometimes we can see two woman writers in a mirror image. And this is very powerful. Thank you for that.
oh, thank you. I really think when I was absent from Cairo and Inayat was absent from the canon, and the reason I became interested in here in the first place was this intersection between us asking the question of identity in completely two different moments. When she tried to ask this question and during Gamal Abdel Nasser project and all of the talk about Arab nationalism progress, nation and so on. And I was asking this question, even I didn't know until I read her novel. In a time there was nothing at all. We don't have Gamal Abdel Nasser big projects or progress. Um, we don't have intellectuals in prisons, but we don't have cultural institutions that working, publishing a book every 6 minutes, like during Gamal Abdel Nasser time. So it was almost empty time, and so this question about here was really, you can't look at someone's life without looking at your own life. And this is really the gift of the absence of archive in the first place. It doesn't guide us toward anything. You are hunted by someone, and you are trying to find the traces in places maybe not that obvious, like the medication for depression, or
Yeah.
the law, or it's like you are inherited something. You are carrying it in your shoulder, right? Walking with it, it's so heavy. So you have to understand it to let it go. So I think she, Enayat herself, really uh, brought me back to Egypt and to Cairo.
Yes.
To not just the geography, but because Cairo
Yes.
is a crazy city,
Of
as you
course.
know, like you feel like it looks dusty in the first look, right? But after this, behind or under this dust, like so many layers, a temple that became a church, and then a mosque, a place here that you will pass by every day, and then you will figure out that a political assassination took place here, or
Yes.
something terrible happens. So she made me work in Cairo, after 20 years of leaving the country. Like, I'm aware of everything, as if I will find something about here anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
But could we say that she she makes you becoming a kind of archaeologist, because all those stratification in spaces, but also in the way your work is going through times. You are becoming a writer 20 years after you are now an important poet. So for me, it's also an archaeological book, because it's about time and stratification and what life, the deposit of life, I mean, the deposit of sentiment, and also the deposit of life. And finally, I have a question, because I was wondering, as how do you consider this book among all your work as a poet? Because it's also narrative. You are it's not written in fragment. It's written in chapter, and you are using some very strong cutoff. I mean, between in time. So it's very interesting. Also, you play with time, but and period also. But I was wondering if how you consider this book, how you look at it, uh, considering you are a poet, so involved in a very different way of writing, perhaps more abstract, and you can answer that, or it's
I really don't know. I mean, as I told you, it's like you have a poetic question and you don't know what to do with it.
yes.
So it takes you places, and it takes time to figure out the tone of voice or your positionality while looking at Cairo or Enayat or the archive, and so on. So I think I love it. I love the.
You love that. You love that.
I love writing in general, but I mean, poetry will remain very, I don't know, in a very special place for me. But you really enjoy it because it's also learning experience, about learning in a deep way. Like in a philosophical way about
Yes.
yourself, about the language, about
And it is also how writing becomes a way of living. I mean, you cannot separate. It's very obvious in your book. We can separate the both paths, I think. So it's very interesting. If anyone has a question for Iman Mersal? No. No question about Enayat El-Zayat. So perhaps at the end, because we did not speak a lot about her, she was also personage of the Naserian nationalist Egyptian context. She was a daughter of the bourgeoisie, and you say sometimes that the secret of the bourgeoisie are always hidden under the rug.
yes.
And her father was an intellectual. Her mother was rather was a very kind of princess, Turkish princess. And she was married at 18, and she has a she had a son, and then she divorced, and so there is some hypothesis about her death. I mean, the divorce and the fact she could not recover the custody of her son, or the fact that the book has been refused by the main publisher in Cairo at that time, is depression, and the motif of depression is very important also on the book in terms of nostalgia, path of time, or also feeling of the feeling of be fragile. I mean, it's very important. And at the end, you played with all those hypotheses, but you don't find an answer. Is it that finally this book wants to say that you cannot know the inner secret of any human life?
Yeah, and it's not really important to know because
No.
coming up with a particular answer is kind of violence too.
Of course, and it's all, yeah.
So I think it was more about reading the past. You know what I mean? Like you are involved in the act of reading, reading and feeling this past, and you walk toward someone, but other people can walk toward other people as well. So the idea here was really in the practice on this feeling that that, as I said from the very beginning, you can listen to the dead, but you don't have to know everything about them.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iman, and thanks to the interpreter. Thank you very much.